Good morning, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Have you ever thought why do we get a user guide when we purchase any phone or home appliances? I think you would say to know how to use the device. Well, you are absolutely right. But that's not the only reason behind having a user guide, especially when it is translated into different languages all over the world. Well, the reason basically is money. Having translated versions of the user guides assures learning how to utilize the device the best way and the right way, and to get all the benefit and to reach its maximum potentials. But what makes a good user guide? So today we are going to talk about certain things that we should keep in mind when we either translate a user guide or make one in our own language. Okay, so one of the most serious issues affecting the user guide or the user manuals is that they are usually products of poor preparation and overly tight deadlines, which places excessive pressure on technical writers and translators. As we all know that it starts from the company itself. They ask the technical writers to write everything that is related to the device or the appliances, and then it will be sent to the translators to translate it into different languages according to the country they are going to send the products into. Okay. But usually, this step of the procedure takes a limited time. They are always in hurry. They don't pay much attention to this step, even though it is one of the most important steps in all the process of selling these goods. Now, there are some factors that impact the quality of the user guides, even before the technical writer puts his pen into the paper. Some of these, let's say, factors that affect the quality of the user guides are going to be discussed in the following. Now, when was this realized by the companies? A turning point in the development of user guides when Apple Computer Company launched a brand new type of user guide to accompany its computers in 1978. Now, the guide was created with the reader in mind, and the programming was explained in everyday English and no computer jargons were used. Which made it very easy for the consumers to understand. To further illustrate the materials, the book used two-color technique. What is two-color techniques? Or what is two-color technique? It is when they use two colors. One is for the normal text. Let's say they used the black text and the eye-catching green information and actual television display. Furthermore, the manual had an informal and humorous style, making it enjoyable to read. It's not something that you read for the exam, it's something that you should understand. It should use a very easy language, very clear instructions, and everyday language. And what they added here is they used an informal and a language full of humor. In addition to that, the employment of linguistics or linguistic methods and styles was an immediate contrast to the writing style of the previous documents or previous kind of user guides, which was dry and robotic. You must have seen some some of the user guides that you came across, which you don't feel like reading. They are just like machine translated versions of the original text. Sometimes you even you can't even understand what the instructions are, which makes it very difficult to use the device that you have bought. Now, companies after this began to realize that user guides could be used to gain customers. How? As we have discussed long ago in the college with the doctor, when you have a very successful user guide or a good user guide, the consumer will be able to understand how to use the device without any mistakes, and hence this will lead to a happy customer. If not, the customer might return the device because either he used it in a wrong way, which affected the device, or he couldn't use it at all, which makes an angry customer. And as we know, that a happy customer might give you one friend, and a very angry customer might try to tell his family and his friends, and which prevent them from buying from your country. So you can imagine the loss in that case. Now it is possible to deal with a representative selection of the criteria that should be kept in mind while writing the translation or the user guide. These aspects are appearance, the content, the structure, and the language. Let's start with the first one. The design of each page of the user guide should be like having these criteria or these criteria. The first thing, it should be having simplicity. It should not be complicated, crowded, and the second one is retrievability. The page should have enough information to allow for a quick identification for the subject matter. It should be understood, it should be clear that on a specific page there is a specific kind of instructions which you can move to very quickly and easily. Instead of reading the entire thing and searching, it should be divided into sections. Flexibility, the design must be adaptable to all changeable data, such as a department name, individuals, and so on, without any requirement for formatting modification. And last not least, readability. The ideal length for one line of the printed text is roughly between 40 and 70 characters. And when we are speaking about characters, we mean the letters and the spaces between the letters. So it could be divided into between 8 to 12 words, because that will make it easier for the reader to read. The sentences should be between 10 to 15 words in length. So long, or what they call snake sentences, should be avoided. The page should also have plenty of white space. the importance of white space. You might feel that it's an easy thing, or it's not an important thing to have the white space, but you can imagine if the page is filled with letters and words and lines, and there is hardly any white space in the on the page. How will that make you feel? I'm sure you will not be very comfortable reading that page, and especially if it is crowded and with a small font or something like that. So from that we can just imagine what is the importance of the white space. Now, the white space is any part of the page that is blank and used to separate ideas. So between the paragraphs or between the sections, we must have some white space. And if the user guide is divided into columns, also white space should be increased to make it easier to identify which column and where it starts and where it ends. Now, one of the types of white space also is the paragraph spacing and line space, and the margins. So all these come under the white space. As we said, between the paragraphs and between the lines, we should have some space, which makes it easier. It makes it easier to read. Now, mostly it is specified, the line space or the space between the lines specified to 1.5 spacing. Now, the paper size. One obvious factor affecting the amount of white space is the actual size of the paper. Quite simply, a larger page allows more white space to be presented in the user guides. If the page is very small, then that will affect the amount of white space between the words and lines and paragraphs. Now, second factor is related to the typing. The format or the font which is used in the user guides are very important. They are critical, and its effectiveness and usability. The major requirement when we select the font is that they are clear, coherent, and that can include 3 basic features: the font type, the font style, and the font size, for obvious reasons. Coming to the text alignment, the amount of white space, but this time not between the paragraphs and the lines and the words, but in the page itself, where exactly your text is aligned according to the page, or in contrast to the page. So we have 4 principal types of text alignment. The first one is the center alignment, the second one is left alignment, the right alignment, and justified alignment. Now I can show you central or center alignment will be like this. So it comes in the center. Okay. Left alignment, it is on the left. Right alignment, it is on the right. You can see here. Okay. And justified alignment, when we press here and make all the lines in equal length. Moving on, delivery, graphics, and screenshots. Now, you might have noticed in some of the user guides that you will find some graphics or pictures or sometimes screenshots of some screen. Usually these things will make it easier for the consumer to follow instructions, especially if he doesn't know the language properly, or if it is used in not the dialect that is used for everyday speaking. Then with the usage of images, graphics and screenshots, it will become easier for them to use the user guide. That was whatever we have discussed previously is the first feature or criteria, that is the appearances. Now let's discuss the structure. The structure is the way in which a user guide is structured, which is fundamental to the success of the user guide and the ease with which readers can use it. We can structure user guides in a number of ways. The first one is chronological. The structure is used, for example, to describe steps and tasks that needs to be carried out in sequence. So it will be like a list of things that you have to follow. General to specific. This is about the structure of sentences, how you write the sentences, how to write the instructions themselves. So the second type is general to specific. This can be used to describe, for example, the background, the preparations, safety precautions, which are needed before providing the step-by-step instructions. The third type, or the third way, problem methods solutions. Now, in this section or this type of structure, you will find if this happened, you should do like this. So it tells you the problem first, and then it gives you the solution. In case this happened with you, you should follow these instructions. And the last one is cause and effect. This structure can be used with a problem, like together with problem method solution approach for troubleshooting sections. So all these structures can be used in different places in the user guides according to what is suitable for each section. The third type, or the third criteria, which is very important also to keep in mind, is the content itself. Now we finished preparing the structure, we finished preparing the white spacing and the appearances. Now we come to the content. The content is the most important factor because honestly, this is what the consumer is going to read. So it should be straightforward. It should be using simple language. It should be clear-cut instructions. It should be easy to understand, easy to follow. We should avoid difficult language. We should avoid difficult or ambiguous instructions, to make it easier, or to make sure that the consumer can understand what he reads. The fourth criteria is the language. Now, talking about the language is very important and very crucial when it comes to making a user guide, whether it is in the original, honestly, original language, or even the translated version of the user guide. The actual language which is used in a user guide is probably the most critical factor in determining whether the quality is good and effective or not. Indeed, the text provides the sensory stimulus which conveys the information to the reader's brain. Now, we should always remember that in technical translation or technical language, the main thing is to convey the message and convey the function of whatever the message is trying to tell. So we should avoid using jargons, and we should try to use simple words. We should also, sometimes it includes euphemism if in case there is something wrong with the language which is in the original version. We need to be polite in translating these words, and of course not to forget the acronyms and the abbreviations, which should be clear for the reader. The second one is the style. When we speak of style, we really mean the all-over tone of the text, how the writer or the authors express themselves, essentially how the authors relate to their readers. We should keep always the whatever we are writing as target audience oriented or the readers oriented. So thinking of what suits the readers is what makes us write in the correct way. Now, using a conversational style, however, does not give you or give the writer license to use slang. So I know it is required to be using the conversational method as if you are really talking to the reader, not writing to them, but talking with them. However, that doesn't give you a green light to use slang language or some casual, unwanted words or confusing words. While spoken communication provides quick feedback, because when you are really speaking to the audience or to the customer, if they didn't understand whatever you are saying, you can see it in their faces. You can understand that they didn't get you. But through reading and writing, that is not an option. You cannot get that from the reader. So it's better to use the words properly, use the strong verbs when it is needed, and use weak verbs when it is needed. You should also keep in mind that it's okay to use active and passive voice, but some scientists or scholars prefer using the active voice because they are clear and ambiguous for the readers. When you give instructions, then use the imperative verbs, because they are very clear and understood. And sometimes you may use compound sentences or compound or complex sentences, compound verbs, in order to make the idea or the message or the function very clear for the readers. And this is how you make the user guide the best way you can make it. Thank you so much.